All right, guys, I'm going to get started and I'll finish the attendance afterwards. I just want to go over one more problem with you guys, and then I'm going to let you guys try 3 more on your own. And just remember, at the end of this week, you're going to take that chapter 4, that unit 4 test. I don't worry that you guys don't know what you're doing. It's a Google form, and you've been used to doing Delta Math and quizzes. This one will be on a Google form, though. All right, let me get my marker.
I'm here, sorry I'm late.
Thanks, Justin. All right, really quick. So guys, yesterday we saw those quadratic word problems, the gravity ones, all the rocket launches. Just to review with you guys, your goal, usually the problems have 3 things they ask you to do. Either you're gonna find the maximum height of the object reached, or you're gonna find the time it took to get to that maximum height. And then you have the problems where they ask you to find the time. I'm sorry, somebody say something? BB3. Hey, he's here. Absolutely. All right, bye. Tomas, they need you in the office to fill out a COVID form. I know. Can you? I don't know. She said to go to the office. I'm sorry. Can you just do it from your phone? Like, I guess. Sorry. Enjoy the stroll. All right. Or you're going to ask you to find the time it took for the object to hit the ground. And then just remember, the way all these problems work is the x coordinates represent the time and the y coordinates represent the height. So you have to understand, if it's a vertex question, do you want the x coordinate of the vertex or do you want the y coordinate of the vertex? All right, the vertex is always your highest point. X is time, y is height, and then if they ask you if it hits the ground, just remember, if it's on the ground, the height is 0, so the y is 0. So you're gonna set the equation equal to 0 and solve. So every time the problem asks about max height, that's a vertex question. Every time the problem asks about hitting the ground, that's a quadratic formula problem, because you're gonna have to set it equal to 0 and solve. All right, I'm gonna do one more with you, and then I'm gonna let you guys work on your own. So this one says, a rocket is launched from a tower. The height of the rocket, y, so y is height, is related to the time after launch, x, so time is x, by the given equation. So we've been given a quadratic equation. Using this equation, find the time that the rocket will hit the ground to the nearest 100th of a second. So we're finding the time that the rocket hits the ground. So again, just to give you a visual, you have a tower, the rocket was launched, and then it comes down. So let the x-axis be the ground, and your x's will represent time. And then let the y-axis represent your height, okay? They are asking you, this rocket has been launched, when will it hit the ground? So when it is on the ground, the height of that rocket is 0. So that means the y, which represents the height, is 0. So go to that equation and let y be 0. Let the height of this rocket be 0. So it becomes 0 equals negative 16x squared plus 119x plus 57. Our job is to now solve this equation for x, and x represents time, and that's what they asked, the time that it hits the ground. All right, now I'm just a little OCD, so I'm just gonna put the equal 0 part on this side. It makes me feel better. Okay, so if I'm gonna solve this, I don't wanna factor it. Who even knows if it does factor? I can't use square roots. Guys, you gotta use the quadratic formula. And the quadratic formula says that x will equal the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, and then all divided by 2 times a. So in this problem, a, the number in front of x squared is negative 16. B, the number in front of x is 119. So guys, the numbers are big and our answers are gonna be ugly. And then C, the number by itself is 57. Let's plug them in. So x will equal the opposite of 119, so negative 119, plus or minus the square root of 119 squared. Hey, what's going on? Okay. I feel like I'm in a hotel pool. I just.
Yeah, I know. It should be better now.
Okay, thank you. Minus 4 times A, which is negative 16, times C, which is positive 57. So guys, that's going to get us a pretty big number. And then it's all divided by 2 times A, which is negative 16. All right, so I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to clean that up. X will equal negative 119 plus or minus the square root. I got to figure out what number this becomes. Guys, it's a lot of times it's in the thousands. It's a really big number. I wrote it down. You should get 17,809. But do yourself a favor, guys. Like I said, they're going to be very picky about your rounding when they ask you to round your answer with the whole estimating and whatnot. So don't take the square root of that number yet. And then it's all going to get divided by negative 32. Okay, so guys, technically, this is a quadratic equation. How many answers do you get when you solve a quadratic equation? You get 2. And guys, the reason you get 2 is because technically, if you think about this, the rocket hits the ground here, so that's going to be one of your x values, one of your times that it hits the ground. But it also, oh, this marker does not work. It also hits the ground back here when x is a negative time, if you will. And guys, that doesn't make sense. We don't want that. So one of the answers we get is going to be bad, and that's the negative answer. Get rid of it. We just want the positive x value. All right, so let's break this up. We're going to get one answer by taking negative 119 and adding the square root of 17,809 and dividing it by negative 32. And we're going to get our second answer by taking negative 119 and subtracting the square root of 17,809 and dividing it by negative 32. All right, let's see who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. So guys, I asked you yesterday to type into your calculator negative 119 plus the square root of 17,809 and hit enter. And don't clear your screen. You get about 14.4503635, whatever. Now, hit divide, so it takes that answer as is, so you're not rounding yet, and divide it by negative 32. And you get about negative 0.45 seconds. So that means, guys, technically, 40.45 seconds before it's launched, that's when it would have been on the ground, according to the speed at which it's traveling. But we don't want that. We don't want negative time. So this is going to be the one that gets us our real answer. So let's get negative 119. Now subtract the square root of 17,809. Hit enter, but don't clear your screen. You get like negative 252.4503. Now divide that by negative 32. And you get 7.88907, blah, blah, blah. They have asked you to round your answer to the nearest hundred. 100 has 2 zeros. That's 2 decimal places you keep. So 7.88, but since the 8 is followed by a 9, round that up to a 9. So 7.89 seconds. So it'll take this rocket from start to finish 7.89 seconds to land on the ground. Does that make sense? Everybody good? At home, are you guys okay with that? Yes? Okay. So that's one of the hitting the ground examples where you have to use the quadratic formula. The other examples, they talk about the max height. And anytime you talk about max height, that's a vertex question. If they want the time it gets to the max height, that's the x coordinate, negative b over 2a, and you're done. If they actually want the max height of the rocket, then that's the y coordinate of the vertex, and you have to find the x coordinate and then plug that in. I find those questions to be a little bit easier, because obviously the quadratic formula can get a little complicated, okay? All right, hey, come on in, Dave, come on in. All right, so guys, I'm gonna let you guys, I gave you 3 more problems on Delta Math. I'm gonna let you guys get started. Let me double check your attendance, and you guys, you can feel free to stay on the meet and work, or you can leave the meet and work. But you have 3 more questions to try tonight on Delta Math. And guys, I specifically picked these problems, so you only get to do these 3 problems. You get 3 tries on each of them, and then it cuts you off. It doesn't give you a new problem, all right? All right, so let me just double check, and you guys can get working. Now, guys, if you have your